I never thought my life would unfold like this. Growing up in a small town in Ohio, I believed in fairytale endings, the kind where love conquers all and families blend seamlessly. But I learned the hard way that blending two lives isn't always graceful, it's often messy, loud, and complicated. My name is Jenna. I was 39 when I met Paul. He was tall, confident, charming in that classic Southern gentleman way, with a deep voice that made you feel like everything would be okay, even when it wasn't. Paul had been through a rough divorce, and so had I. We found comfort in each other's brokenness. Within a year, we were married, and I moved into his spacious house in suburban Tennessee, a sprawling brick place with a wide porch and the kind of lawn you only see in commercials. Paul had a son, Tyler. 19 years old. He was tall like his father, with striking green eyes and an intensity that made me uneasy from the moment we met. He didn't smile much, and he never called me by name. Just her or your wife when speaking to Paul. I tried to be patient. I knew it couldn't be easy for him. His mother had left when he was 16, and since then, he'd been bouncing between college and home, clearly uncertain about where he belonged. At first, I tried everything, inviting him to dinner, offering help with laundry, even buying him small things like energy drinks and notebooks. He barely acknowledged any of it. Then came the friends. Tyler didn't say much, but his friends, they were everywhere. There was Drew, always cracking jokes, even when no one was laughing. Chase, quieter, but with eyes that watched too closely. And Marcus, the loudest of them all, with a grin that never felt quite genuine. They hung around the house constantly, raiding the fridge, watching movies too loud, playing video games till 2 a.m. Paul tried to set boundaries, but he worked late, often traveling for his sales job, and when he was gone, the house felt like it belonged to them. One Friday afternoon, Paul packed up for a business trip to Atlanta. He kissed me goodbye, promised to call that night, and was gone by 6. The house felt quiet for all of 20 minutes before I heard the front door bang open and voices erupt in the hallway. "Where's Dad?" Tyler called from the foyer, his voice half bored, half daring. "Gone till Sunday," I answered from the kitchen, wiping down the counter. "He leave the liquor cabinet locked?" "Yes," I said, though I wasn't sure. They moved through the house like they owned it. I stayed out of their way at first, retreating to the guest bedroom I used as a little reading nook. But they got louder. Someone turned up music. Then came the unmistakable sound of a ball hitting the hallway wall, laughter, and muffled footsteps upstairs. The thud of something falling. My patience wore thin. I stepped out. "Guys, can you keep it down?" 4 heads turned to look at me from the living room. Tyler was slouched on the couch, drink in hand, one leg dangling off the edge. Drew was next to him, feet on the coffee table. Chase stood behind the armchair, and Marcus was holding a can of soda, mid-sip. Tyler looked me dead in the eyes. "This is Dad's house. And I'm his wife," I said evenly. "Show a little respect." He smirked. "Respect's earned." I turned and walked away, heart pounding. That night, they ordered pizza and left greasy boxes on the counter. I found beer cans in the guest bathroom and a hoodie draped over the banister. It felt less like a home and more like a frat house. I tried to sleep, but laughter and music filtered through the vents until almost 3 a.m. The next morning, the kitchen was trashed. I spent over an hour cleaning before I even had coffee. Tyler came down around noon, shirtless, looking half asleep. "You're up early," he muttered. "It's noon," I said. "And this isn't a hotel. Clean up after yourselves." He chuckled, reached into the fridge for orange juice, and drank it straight from the carton. That afternoon, things shifted. I was folding laundry in the sunroom when I felt eyes on me. I looked up and saw Chase, standing silently by the doorframe. "Need help?" he asked. I blinked. "With laundry?" He shrugged. "Or anything?" I smiled politely. "No, I'm fine. But thanks." He didn't move. Just watched me a moment longer than necessary, then turned and left. Later, Marcus offered to help with groceries. Drew asked if I wanted them to cook dinner. The sudden civility felt more unsettling than the chaos. I couldn't place it, but something had shifted in the way they looked at me. Less like I was in the way. More like, I was the center of something. That evening, Tyler was quiet. He watched me during dinner, his gaze unreadable. When I stood to wash dishes, he followed. "You seem tense," he said, leaning against the counter. "Because I am," I replied, scrubbing a plate. He leaned in slightly. "You know, you could relax. Maybe hang out with us." I laughed, short and bitter. "I'm not a college kid." "Didn't say you were. But you're not old either." I turned to look at him, plate still in hand. There was a challenge in his eyes, but also something else, an understanding, maybe even empathy. It rattled me. "I appreciate the offer," I said, "but I think I'll pass." I went to bed early, locking the bedroom door behind me. But I barely slept. The house creaked and groaned with every laugh, every footstep, every flicker of movement in the hallway. The next day, Paul called. I didn't mention any of it. What would I say? "Your son and his friends are creeping me out." He would have laughed it off. Told me to lay down the law. But something in Tyler's eyes told me it wasn't that simple. That night, I walked into the living room and found them watching a movie. Chase was on the floor, Marcus on the couch, and Drew lying across the rug like a kid. Tyler sat alone in the recliner. The lights were dim, popcorn everywhere. "Movie night?" I asked. "You should join us," Drew said without looking up. I hesitated, then sat on the far end of the couch. No one spoke for a while. The movie played, something loud and action-packed. But I felt their eyes on me more than once. Especially during the scenes with close-ups, when I shifted in my seat, conscious of how I was sitting, how I looked. It wasn't long before Drew got up, stretched, and plopped down on the couch next to me, too close. Then Marcus shifted too. I realized they were slowly crowding me in. I stood abruptly. "All right. I'm calling it a night." No one protested. Tyler just watched. I avoided them most of Sunday. Stayed in the bedroom. Paul was due home by 7. At 6:30, I heard the front door open and my heart lifted. But it wasn't Paul. It was Tyler. Alone. He knocked on my door. "Can I come in?" I opened it a crack. "What do you want?" "To talk." I sighed and stepped aside. He came in, looked around, then sat on the edge of the bed. "You don't like me," he said. "I don't know you." He nodded slowly. "Maybe that's the problem." He looked at me with something raw in his expression. "You ever feel invisible? Like, even in your own house, people don't really see you?" I said nothing. "My dad barely notices me," he went on. "He's too busy with work. And you look at me like I'm a problem." I felt something loosen in my chest. A tension I hadn't known I was holding. "I'm sorry if I made you feel that way," I said softly.